Hello guys, Marvelous here and welcome to another Power Platform Simplified episode. So today, what are we doing today? Today I'll be showing you how to add attachments when using a sequential approver. Alright, in the latest sequential approver that Microsoft just introduced, there's no how we can add attachments like we usually do in our basic approver. Alright, so but without wasting so much of our time, let's get right into it. So this is a Power Automate. So log into your Power Automate. And what do I mean by sequential approval? That you can't add attachment. Let me just do a demo. Let me just go to new flow, automated cloud flow. Let me just use a manual trigger. So you can see there's no way you can add attachments in a sequential when you are using a sequential approval. Okay. So let me just name this approver and click on create. We can create let me leave that for now. Let me add a new step to use a standard approver so you can see what I'm talking about. The standard approver. Okay, here it is. Now notice, okay, when I click on start and wait for approval, and I use approval type to be sequential. What I mean by sequential approval, if you want to stage your approval to be step by step, instead of having like more than one approval, it can be sequential, and you assign the approval to people to the user who are going to approve. It can be three. You can have like 3 approvals, 4 approvals. It's going to be step by step sequential. So if you select this sequential approval, see, there's no way you can add attachment. All right, can you see? There's no way you can add attachment like we usually do if you just pick first to respond, where you'll be able to select attachment in the advanced parameter and use attachment. You can use an attachment array like we usually do. But when you use approval type to be sequential, you won't be able to add. There's no way you can add attachment. But here's a good There's a good news. I found a workaround of how you can add attachments when you use a sequential approver. With this, can make your flow to be a minimum instead of you having like 3 or 4 approval because you want to use attachments. So now, how do we do this? I'm going to connect I have a SharePoint list here which I'll be using as a demo for candidates. As soon as I add a new item to this SharePoint list, I want the flow to trigger and how I can add attachment to this. So this is my SharePoint list where I can add attachments. All right. So now let's get right into it. When an item is created, will be my trigger, and I go to this is my SharePoint site, and the list name is candidates. All right. Okay, candidates. So then the next step I'm going to do is get attachment. I want to get attachment. Once an attachment is uploaded to that SharePoint list, I want to get attachments. All right, get attachments. I set address. Pick this my SharePoint list. I'll pick this the ID of the item, which is this. Now you'll be wondering, how am I going to add attachments with this? Now there's a workaround of how you can add attachments, whereby inside the details of this you will get the link of that attachment and attach it inside not item link, inside details. You might say, okay, why can't I use the item link? If you want to use item link, you'll be able to add more than one attachment. Probably you might have more than one file uploaded in that SharePoint list, but in this item link you won't be able to add more than one link of that item to be able to get it. All right, you understand? So you won't be able to have more than, but in a scenario where you have more than one attachment, how do you now want to add the link to this? Now, there's a documentation inside Microsoft documentation That's why it's always good to read documentations. Inside Microsoft documentation, I found how you can add links using Markdown. Okay, using Markdown with just square brackets and brackets. So when I use a square bracket, this way I will insert the link text, just like you're using an HTML. You understand what I mean? So inside a square bracket, this will be the text, and inside this bracket, that's where I will embed my link URL. Okay, so how do we do this? Now, next thing I'm going to do is, before I get my attachment, I want to initialize a variable, a string variable. Okay, let me initialize a variable. A variable. Let me initialize a variable. Yes, initialize a variable. Let me name this file link of type string. Then I'll leave it empty for now. So once I get the attachments, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to get the link to that attachment, because once you get attachments, inside the next step you will see the link as, okay, now for example, now let me just select this and get it from the, can you see, I can get the link of the attachment. All right, I can get the link of the attachment, then send it along my approval. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is, after my initialize variable, then I will append the string to this. I will append a string to this variable. The next thing I'm going to do is append to string. Okay, yeah, append to string variable. Okay, the name, which is the variable I created, which is empty, which is this. Then the value of this is going to be the link from this. Okay, yeah, you did not do anything wrong. It's going to go inside for each function. The reason why is because you might have more than one attachment, and you need to add for each action to loop through those attachments. Okay, if in case you have more than one attachment. So now, but we are not done yet. Remember, remember, in this Microsoft documentation, this is how I'll grab the link and insert this as a markdown inside the details, not item link. So what I'm going to do is I go back to the append to string variable. I use my square brackets. The inside the square bracket is going to be my display name of the attachment. Okay, then what I'm going to do next is open bracket and close brackets. Okay, then inside the open bracket, inside the brackets, that's why I will grab the absolute URI, the absolute URL of the link. See, link to attachment. Okay, so now that's how I will grab the link. All right, now let's see it in action. Then the next thing I'm going to do is add another action, start and wait for approval. I can make this sequential approval. Then I had, but I'm not I'm only use my only one. I will only add just one person, which is me. I will only add one person here, which is me. Let me just copy my email address. So I'll just get my email address to assign this to just one person. Okay, and you can add more. You can add, if you want to have like four steps of approval, whereby you have more than one person to apply to approve. So instead of trying to create more than one approval and make your flow to kind of long, okay, you can just use sequential approval and you stage the approval of each person assigned to the first person, second person, third person, fourth person, fifth person. So, but the only downside of this sequential approval is you, inside the advanced parameter, attachment is not available compared to our basic one. So, but I'm not going to use, I'm just going to remove this, delete this, delete this. This is just going to be assigned to just one person, which is me. Delete this. Okay, so now title, let me just make it approval. Now markdown, my details where I can use markdown. approval. I will just say name, just to make it brief. Name, then the role. Well, so what I'm going to do is just files. I'm just going to name files. Just name it files. Then inside this, then I will grab my variable, which is the file link. All right, which is the file link. Okay, you got that. So once that is done, now let's see it in action. Okay, let's see it in action. So I'm just going to save this. So once it's saved, let me test. Click on test. Test. Now let me go to my SharePoint list, add a new item. So let's add a new item. Let me make this, let me just use my name, 703 solutions. The role, Power Platform Developer. Expertise, Power Platform. So now let me add attachments. Let me just add this one for now. Then I save. So once that is done, let's go to our flow. This should trigger now. Let me refresh. I already saved that. Let me go back and see my previous run. Let me save again. Okay, let me perform the action again. So this can get triggered. Okay, let me add another item. So 703 solutions, 703 text solutions. Expertise CEO attachments. Then I'm just gonna add this for now. Open, then I save. Okay, now let me go back to my flow. Now my flow got triggered. See, it's running. Now let me go to my Teams. I should get the notification. Here it is. So can you see? This is how, can you see the file I had? Once I click this, I'll be able to open this. You see how I was able to add file using a sequential add attachment, using a sequential approver. So then if I go back, let me just approve this. Then now let me add more than one attachment and see if this is gonna if it's gonna work as well. Now let me go back to my SharePoint list. SharePoint list, add another item. Let me add another item. Let me name this 703 row 703 just for now, just for a test. Okay, add attachments. Let me add one and this too. Okay, let me say, let me just add anything. So then I save. So now another approval should come in again. Another approval should kick in again. So let's wait a little bit. Here it is. The approval came in. Now, once I go to this, now notice, yeah, I purposely selected that picture. Now notice, I was able to only view one picture, right? Now notice this. Notice that this link got broken. So when the link got here, logo.png is not part of the link. If I click this, see, not fun. That's because the link got broken. And why? Because there's a space between this word and logo. There's a space. So and markdown doesn't render a space. Markdown thinks, okay, this is where the link ends. Once it detects a space, that's where the link ends, and see this as a text. Now, how do you do this? Maybe probably in the attachment a user needs to upload, probably the attachment they uploaded, there's a space in the name, there's a space in the name. How do you do this? Now, this is what we need to do. Let me go back to my flow and edit, because in a scenario this is kind of thing you will come across. All right, so what I'm going to do is, inside this for each action, I will add a compose. Okay, I will add a compose before I append this variable. What I'm going to do is I will use an expression. Okay, I'll use an expression to encode. There's something we call URI encode. I'll use an expression to encode this name, so that it's I'll first use an expression to encode it, combine it together, then encode it in form of a URL that there won't be space. Now you'll see that in action very soon. Now, so what I'm going to do is add a compose action here. Go to compose. Now, what expression will I use? So I already have the expression copied here. I will explain, because this is a long format that I do. So I'm this kind of person. I love to save my formulas. I love to save every formula I use. Every formula I try to debug, I try to save it in case of next time I need it. So, but I'm going to explain. Let me just copy this now. Let me copy this formula. Then I paste it into my expression. It's okay. I go into my expression. I will explain what this formula does. Don't worry, I'll put it in the description so you guys can copy. Now, you see, concat. Concatenate means combine. All right. I want this expression to combine the whole link. Let me go back to this whole link. I want the expression to combine everything together, even including the space, include everything. Combine it as a single string. All right, combine it as a single string, as a concat. Then you open this square bracket. Square bracket. This is just a text. You see the square bracket. You see square bracket. Inside the square bracket is the display name, like we did here. Remember, like we did here, like we did when we the first one we did here, this square bracket, that's where uh we save the display name, just like in this markdown, the text and the URL. Okay, so that's why you see that square bracket here. That's why you see that square bracket. It's just a text to grab the display name where the display name is going to be. That's the square bracket. Okay, concat display name, then substring. Okay, what does this substring mean? Sub Substring means I want to get the link. Okay, when I see substring dynamic function. Okay, let me do it again. Let me start from the beginning again, because this is a long formula that I don't know fan. I'm not gonna lie. I just when I was able to debug it, so you come over here, concat, you open the square bracket, then you go to dynamic function, you select from the get attachment the display name. Okay, then the next thing you're going to use is substring. Then let me do this again. The formula will be in the description, and also it's going to be on my blog, so you can copy and just paste this formula. So this is why I'm changing this, so you can select yours from your own dynamic function. Your own name can be different, but this is mine. Subscreen, then the absolute URI. Then I move on to substring 0 last of index. What does that mean? The last index of. What does that mean? Means I want to pick the URL. Okay, the URL. I want to pick the link of the attachment, but start from the first. Okay, start from the first. Substring means pick the whole string. Okay, pick the whole string, but start from the first. Remember, we've combined it here. Okay, concat, we've combined it. Substring, pick the whole string, but start. This 0 means start from the first, and the string, where does the string start from? It starts from this HTTPS. Okay, now I mean start from the first, which is the start coming from 0, which is going to start from the first till last of index. Last of index, this slash, you see this slash means the last, wherever you see this slash, wherever last of index, wherever you see this slash. Okay, that's the meaning of this. Last of index, absolute URL slash. Okay, slash, that means I pick the whole string, start from the first, pick the whole string where you see this slash, then I move on to encode URI component. What I say mean by encode means I want to encode the URL of the link. Encode URI component. Then last split. The last split means once I pick the whole string, then the last, I move on to the last. You understand what I'm trying to explain here? Last of index, pick the whole string, but start from the first, then move on to the last. Okay, last of index means after this slash, pick the last word there. Okay, last split, where do I want to split? After this slash, I want you to split, which is this. This is the last slash here, which is this. Can you see? Start from this till the last slash here. Okay, the last slash, then split this word for me. Okay, this GMG, and split this word. Okay, split this word. Then after it speaks the last word, then the encode. Okay, encode URI, which means where did I want to encode? That's mean encode. Where do I want to encode? I want to encode the last word. All right, that's the meaning of encode URI. Last split means after I've splitted it. Okay, I first pick the old substring. After I combine it, that's the meaning of this substring. After I combine, I picked. Remember, I concat means combine all the whole word together. After you've combined, then after you've combined, I want you to split. Okay, split. That's the workaround I did. Combine it, split to the last slash of this. last slash of this, which is this the last slash. Once I combine all these words together, this will be the last slash. Then after I combine, pick the last slash, then encode the word after the last slash. That's the meaning of encode. Usually, if you see last split items, use this I picked this from my dynamic content. This I picked this from dynamic content. Okay, I picked this from the dynamic content, which is the absolute URI. Okay, last split. Oh, there's a mistake here. Sorry. Let me just copy it again. I think I messed the code up. Copy this again. Okay, so means I want to pick the last split, then encode that last word, last encode URI component. After then I decode. Okay, I decode, which means I want you to add this percentage and 0a. Wherever you see space, you decode it with this. That's the meaning of this. Then after that, then I save. Okay, so then inside my append to string, I'm going to remove all this. Then is now going to be the output of my compose. Okay, the output of my compose will now be inside the append to string variable. Then the next thing I already put the link here. So now let's now see it in action. Then I save. So every form, the expression I use is going to be on my blog. Then you can copy and paste this expression and use it in your flow. Then let me test again. Let me use it with the last trigger test. Now let's see it in action. Yeah, the approval came in. Can you see? You see that? You see that? Can you see that now? I was able to pick the two attachments. You see that? Can you see that? So this is how you can add attachments if you are trying to use a sequential approval. So can you see the workaround you can use to add attachment by using the details itself, using a markdown, and inside the link, inside the mark as a markdown. So with this, anyone who gets the approval can view the link and then let me approve this. So this is how you can add link in when using a sequential approval. So I hope this helps someone in their development journey. Let's keep building solutions that solve business problem. Let's keep automating. Let's keep building solution. And I'll see you in my next episode. A very big favor, please. Like, share, subscribe. These are the things that can make my channel grow. I can make YouTube to recommend my videos to other viewers like you, who's going to help them in their development journey. So do well to subscribe, share, like, so I can reach a wider audience, a broad audience that people also can see this tutorial. Thank you all, and I'll see you in my next episode. Peace out.